In the autumn of 1990, the literary world witnessed a strange paradox. A.S. Byatt's towering novel, Possession, a Romance, was awarded the prestigious Booker Prize. On paper, it was a triumph, a massive, intricate literary detective story that seamlessly wove together a modern academic romance with beautifully fabricated Victorian poetry, diaries, and letters. But behind the celebratory champagne, a fierce battle line was being drawn. While the Booker judges swooned, a vocal faction of critics tore the book apart. They didn't just dislike it, they seemed actively offended by it. They called it too clever, bloodless, and an exhausting exercise in academic vanity. Welcome back. Today, we are looking at the fascinating culture war that erupted around Byatt's Possession. It's a story of an author at war with the gatekeepers of taste, and a rare moment where the general reading public took a side that shocked the literary establishment. To understand why critics were so polarized, you have to look at what Byatt actually did. She didn't just write a narrative about two modern scholars tracking down a secret affair between two fictional Victorian poets. She actually wrote the entire canon for those fictional poets. The book is stuffed with massive multi-page pastiches of 19th-century epic poetry, complete with dense, layers-deep theological and mythological symbolism.
For a certain brand of reviewer, this was an unpardonable sin. Critics from major broadsheets complained that Byatt was showing off, using the novel as an intellectual playground rather than a space for human emotion. They argued that the modern characters, Roland and Maud, weren't real people. They were just mouthpieces for post-structuralist literary theory.
The core of the critics' complaint was this. Byatt had written a book by an academic about academics that required an elite university degree just to decode. They viewed it as exclusionary, cold, and exhausting. But Byatt didn't back down. In fact, she had anticipated this exact backlash. What the critics missed was that Possession is actually a massive, brilliant satire of the very academic world they accused her of pandering to. She was actively poking fun at dusty, aggressive, and gender-obsessed scholars who tried to possess dead writers instead of just enjoying them. Byatt fiercely defended the idea that intellectual depth and narrative pleasure do not have to be mutual exclusives. She famously argued that reading is an inherently passionate, even erotic act. She didn't want to spoon-feed her audience. She believed that readers are smart, capable of enjoying a mirror game of clues, and hungry for what she called narrative greed, that deep, primal urge to turn the page and uncover a secret. By forcing the reader to read the poems and letters along with the detectives, she made the audience active participants in the archive. So, how did the reading public receive this heavyweight intellectual duel? In a twist that stunned the cynical gatekeepers, the public absolutely loved it. Possession didn't just sit on highbrow university syllabi. It became an international blockbuster bestseller. Everyday readers completely bypassed the critics' warnings. Why? Because underneath the dense Victorian pastiche, Byatt had built an incredibly sturdy, satisfying engine, a classic romance wrapped inside a gripping detective thriller. The public proved that readers didn't need to understand every single obscure 19th century literary reference to connect with the deep beating heart of the story. They connected with the universal human themes, the desire to truly know another person, the pain of secrecy, and the thrill of discovery. The book's massive commercial success was a direct vindication of BYATT'S faith in the general reader. The ultimate proof of the public's victory over the critics came a decade later, when Hollywood came calling. In 2002, the book was adapted into a major feature film. Ironically, to make it work on screen, filmmakers had to strip away almost all of the dense poetry and academic satire that the critics had hated, proving, perhaps, that the core human narrative was what truly endured. Ultimately, the controversy surrounding possession reminds us of a recurring tension in literary history, the divide between institutional critics who prize minimalist simplicity and a reading public that is often deeply willing to engage with complex, rich, and unashamedly smart storytelling. BYATT proved that a book can be unapologetically brainy and still capture the world's imagination. What do you think? Is Possession a masterclass in literary depth, or is it too academic for its own good? Let me know in the comments below. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and I'll see you in the next lecture.